Hello everyone, and welcome to Crockett Creek Brewery. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight we are going to be making black grape wine. For a long time now I've wanted to make a wine that mimics a store-bought red wine, made with red grapes. So I've been experimenting, and I think I finally nailed it. These right here are black seedless grapes I got from the store. I fermented a gallon of these about 2 months ago, and it turned out remarkable. Here is my finished 1 gallon I made. Look at that beautiful crystal red color. Turned out great. I had some friends over the other night for a wine tasting, and they absolutely enjoyed it. So that's what we're going to be making tonight. Now, this is a bit of an arduous fermentation, or an arduous recipe, because each one of these grapes has to be cut up and mashed. There's several ways you can do this. I like to do it in the stock pot. So, let's go down our list of ingredients. I have here 3 pounds of black seedless grapes. I have 2 pounds, a little over 2 pounds of white table sugar. We have our auto siphon, our funnel, our fruit masher. We're going to be using about 30 raisins in this, and this is just to add a little bit of extra tannins to the brew. We of course have our hydrometer and graduated cylinder. And everything is going to be sanitized and has already been sanitized in Star San. So, right now, I have my stock pot here. My stock pot is full of about half a gallon of water. This is my other half a gallon. What we're going to do is add the grapes to this half a gallon of water. We're going to bring it up to a simmer, and we're going to begin to mash the grapes. And once all the grapes are mashed and they've boiled for about 15 minutes, we're going to turn off our heat and we're going to add the cool water to sort of bring down our mash temperature a little bit. I think that'll help the brewing time, the initial recipe, go a little faster. So we're going to cut up our grapes as we add them to our stock pot. There we go, we have our heat turned on. So I'm probably going to fast forward through this part, but you'll be here along with me for the ride. Okay, so we finally have chopped up all of our grapes. That took a while. Whew. So we have our half a gallon of water and all 3 pounds of our grapes. They are being brought up to a simmer right now. What we're going to do now is go ahead and prepare a sugar wash. What we're going to do is we're going to take this remaining 1 gallon, or half gallon of water. We're going to add all of our sugar to it and get it totally mixed in. So that way when we add the cold water to our simmering water, not only do we incorporate all of our sugar, we cool down our mash temperature, and none of the sugar will get stuck to the whole fruits, and we won't lose any specific gravity, I'm hoping. So let's go ahead and do that. This part is always a little sketchy because it's so full of sugar. And I almost always end up spilling some. Okay, so we finally got all of our sugar through our funnel. That took a long time. I don't know why, but my sugar was sticking to the inside of the funnel and it was making it very difficult. But here we go. That is all about 2.2 pounds of sugar we're going to be using for this recipe. So now we just have to shake it all up and incorporate it into the water. Get everything dissolved. When we're done, and when we mix this with the rest of our water and our fruit, I've calculated we should have about a 1.090 specific gravity. So we'll see how close we got. Okay, we're gonna let this sit for a minute and see if we have any sugar settle to the bottom. In the meantime, let's check on our stock pot. Not quite up to a simmer yet. Let's give it a good stir to make sure we're not burning or scorching any of the fruit on the bottom. What this will help do by heating it up is it will kill off any bacteria that could be present on the outside of the grapes. That could be molds, and that could be wild yeasts that we don't want competing with our wine yeast we're going to be using. It will also help release some of the enzymes and starches in the grapes so that it'll release its sugar content. So we have a little bit of sugar in the bottom. Let's shake it up a little bit more. I think that just about got it. So we're going to wait on our grape water mixture to be brought up to a simmer. That should take us about 15 minutes or so. Then we're going to let it sit and simmer for about 15 minutes, and then we'll be ready to turn off the heat and add our cold water solution. So we'll see y'all in about 15 minutes. Okay everyone, so we have brought our stock pot with our grape and water mixture up to a simmer. It's been simmering for 15 minutes. I've just killed the heat for it. So what we're going to do now is remove it from the heat and add our cold water. Okay. And there we go. So this carboy is going to go back in my sanitizer water so that it can be rinsed out and sanitized for the next time. And I want to show you real quick what yeast we're going to be using. We're going to be using Lalvin K1V 1116. This is my favorite yeast of all time. It is a wine and champagne yeast, very high alcohol tolerance. I really enjoy dry wines, so this ensures that no matter how high of an alcohol content I'm trying to make, I'll always have a dry wine. We're going to be using our brew bucket tonight in our primary fermentation for our black grape wine. That will ensure that we don't get any lost space in our 1 gallon carboys with the 3 pounds of grapes that we added. I'm sure right now we have about 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons in our mixture, but about half of that is probably made up of our grapes. Those will be racked off here in about 10 days so that we're left with roughly about 1 gallon of liquid to go into secondary fermentation. So let's give this a really good stir so that we can get our cold water, hot water mixture all mixed together. It's one big conglomeration. This is still fairly warm, so I'm actually going to let this sit for a couple of minutes and cool down. I may even put it in some cold water in the sink so that it'll chill and we can add it to our fermentation bucket and we have no risks of killing off the yeast because of the heat or even warping or melting our plastic bucket. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Okay everyone, so right now I have our grape water and sugar mixture chilling in the sink right now. I have my brew bucket that were already sanitized and dried. Right now while we're waiting, I want to go ahead and add our raisins. These are going to add a little bit of yeast nutrient to our brew. It's also going to add some tannins and a little bit of flavoring to our wine. So here on the floor, right next to me, I have my brew bucket. We're going to pinch and drop in 30 raisins exactly. This might take a minute. And there we go. So our raisins have been added. Let's check the temperature on our mixture. I think it's probably pretty good to go ahead and pour it in. There we go. Now you won't be able to see this because my brew bucket's on the floor, but we're about to go pour it in. Okay, so right now our level at the brew bucket says it is 1.5 gallons. That's perfect. We're probably going to leave behind about half a gallon's worth of space for our lees and our grapes and any more sediment that falls to the bottom. So let's go ahead and use our turkey baster and let's get a hydrometer reading. And we're back. This is quite a bit foamy, so I'm actually going to let this sit for a sec and let the foam settle down so we can get a proper reading. Okay, so we are reading 1.080. I believe that's going to be about a 10.5% alcohol brew, which is perfect. That's exactly the range I want it to be at. So, let's go ahead and pour this back into our brew bucket. These go into our sanitizer liquid. And the final step is to add our yeast. We're going to be using about half a packet of Lalvin K1V 1116. And there we go. This is going to be folded up, and we're going to save this for our next brew. So right here we have our lid for our brew bucket. We're going to fit this airlock down inside here, like so. Set this aside, and let's stir in our yeast. Okay, so I'm going to take you with me here, and I'm going to show you what our mixture looks like. Here we go. Our black grape wine is ready to go. So all we have to do now is attach our lid, and we're going to wait 10 days so that all the tannins from the grape skins, all the flavors from the grapes and the raisins have a chance to imbue the wine, and then we'll rack it off the sediment and it'll go into secondary fermentation. So thank y'all very much for joining me tonight on this tutorial for black grape wine. This is the closest I've ever gotten to a store-bought red wine. It's turned out fantastic with my first gallon I made of it, and I'm excited here with the second gallon. So, we will see you on the next brew here at Croc Creek Brewery. Bye now.